happy, merry end of the year 2022. Guys, we are getting a balance patch. Not a joke, not kidding at all. Patch 5.0.11 or 5011 for you cool kids out there is on the PTR right now, I believe. Go test it out. Go check out all these changes. You can see for yourself how much you are getting nerfed, crushed. Then tell me all about how terrible it is in the comments. Today we're going to be going through all these changes line by line, talking about perhaps some of their implications, what it might mean, who got hit the hardest. Although I'm sure Terrans will tell me it was Terran, no matter what the changes are. Few disclaimers before we get started, of course. One, all of these changes are on the PTR. They may or may not actually go live, so testing may remove or tweak some of the numbers ever so slightly. And secondly, of course, I am not Serral. I am not Maru. I am not Hero. My opinions are those of a, let's go with terrible player. A terrible player with terrible opinions. Let's get started. ZERG, Creep Tumor, cooldown increased from 11 to 13 seconds. That is a nerf. You can no longer spread creep as quickly, just straight up. Sight range reduced from 11 to 10. Also a nerf, but that one, it could see past the creep is the issue. Going from 11 to 10, it's going to be more of a bringing it back to what it should be. Now it's liable to see the edge of the creep, not past the edge of the creep. A little more fair, I think. Hatchery, lair, and hive creep spread interval decreased from 0.3 to 0.25. That is a buff. That is the time in between when the hatchery, lair, or hive's creep spreads from the hatchery, lair, or hive. So, our main bases, main buildings are spreading creep slightly faster. Sight range increased from 10, 11, 12 to 12. They had different sight ranges? Okay. Well, that's a buff, especially for the hatchery. Getting to spread its creep faster and see farther, that's probably going to be really good for ZVZ. Because usually with the other two matchups, you're already spreading a creep tumor pretty quickly from the natural. But ZVZ, not usually. So, a good change there, benefiting the main buildings. Viper added 0.71 cast finish time to abduct. Cannot move or use other abilities during this time. That means that when you tell your Viper to abduct something and it sticks its tongue out, it grabs it, that Viper can no longer move for 0.71 seconds. The way it was before, you could tag something with its tongue and keep moving and get out of dodge. It's more options for counterplay. When you have things like Templar on the field or Ghosts on the field, you have more of a chance to snipe or feedback the Viper before it runs away with whatever your favorite unit was. ULTRALISKS, reduced size by 12.5%. I can make the joke, that is a huge change. Despite being a size reduction, that actually is awesome to see. Ultras, of course, I've talked about it, other people have talked about it. One of their biggest problems was their big size. They couldn't get to where they needed to be. They couldn't get to their target before they died. Or they'd get stuck tripping over each other. It was just a sad sight all around. Increase range slop. That's our term. That's our technical term. From 1 to 1.4. The range a target can move before miss. If I'm reading that right, if I'm understanding that right, that is the range that the Ultra, it gets into its range of 1 and it starts its attack. But if the unit moved away, it got out of range 1, the Ultra would miss its attack. It wouldn't actually hit. Going to 1.4 means the target can move slightly and the Ultra can still hit. It can still connect. So that is a buff. Ladies and gents, that's 2 buffs for the Ultralisk. Thank God. Perhaps Ultras will see a little bit more use. Hydralisk. Uh-oh. Muscular augments. Move speed bonus increased from 0.79 to 1.05. I just did their unit guide video too. God bless. That's a buff. That's a good buff. Actually a really good buff. Helping the Hydras be a little bit more speedy. That is going to make them actually pretty nice. Able to chase down medevacs, chase down whatever you want to fight for PROTOSS. Void Rays, maybe? Okay. Damage point reduced from 0.15 to 0.1. Damage point. I think that's the time that it takes for the Hydra to start attacking from moving. Your Hydra's moving and it stops, and it was 0.15 seconds before it could start spitting. Now it's 0.1, so that is a buff, even if it's very, very slight. Your Hydras are now much more speedy and able to start their attack a little bit quicker. Is it enough to make them a solid counter? I don't know. I'm inclined to say no. They're probably not going to change roles very much, but they're at least a little bit better at what they were doing. We'll take what we can get. Broodlord. Move speed increased from 1.97 to 2.3. Straight up buff. Glad to see it. Broodlords, they already had a lot of weaknesses. The fact that they were slow enough to be considered static defense was sad. I'm glad to see. Moving a little bit quicker. Trade-off though. Broodling. Duration reduced from 5.7 to 3.57. So what does that mean? That means the Broodling's life is actually now much closer to the attack speed of the Broodlord. So you can no longer chain Broodling attacks to generate more Broodlings on the ground. You'd see that with good Zergs a lot of times. Actually, they would fire the Broodlords onto a creep tumor or onto a spore or another Broodling if they're feeling particularly furious at their children that day. And then they would be able to chain the attacks to build up a bulk of Broodlings and then go muck everything up for the opponent. That is now less capable. So the Broodlord moves a bit quicker, able to get in and out of its attack range a bit better, but you can no longer swarm with Broodlings as easily. It might be a pretty impactful change at the pro level, at the top level, where people were doing that consistently, but for the rest of the universe, I'm going to say it's probably not very big. The speed increase, though, I like that. Ravager. Build time increased from 8.6 to 12.9 seconds. Straight up nerf. Ravager, slower now. Slower build time. They spend a little bit longer in that cocoon, gathering up their courage, learning their ABCs before they come out, and are ready to spit biles. May give more opportunity for counterplay if you're actually able to target down the eggs. If not, well, then it gives you more time to clean everything up before the Ravagers come out. And it also makes a Ravager rush a little bit slower. So, Zerg players, you decide. PROTOSS. Everyone's favorite. Shield battery. Battery overcharge. Recharge rate reduced from 200 to 150. So long shield batteries. The only thing that was keeping PROTOSS alive through some pushes. Just knock that down a peg. It's too confident. So now when a battery is specifically overcharged, it is recharging the shield rate a little bit slower. It's still better than a non-overcharged battery. There's still an incentive to overcharge it, but now it's a little less God mode. Observer. Move speed increased from 2.63 to 2.82, and model size increased. Somebody fed the observer too much at Thanksgiving, guys. So the speed, the speed increase, that's nice. Because if you went robo, if you were already going robo, you had to choose, you had to decide, do I want to build observers and get vision, get scouting, or do I want to build immortals and actually have a competent army? At least this means now if you only have 1 or 2 observers in the start, they can move around a little bit easier, get you a little better vision. The trade-off, model size increased. I suspect that does not increase their vision range. I think that's to make the shimmer version the opponent sees bigger. It's going to be a little bit easier to see that shimmer over your supply depot now. That's my suspicion. My favorite change here. Archon can now fit between single gap walls. No more trapped Archons. No more house Archons. As long as you didn't mess up your wall that badly. And now you can put an Archon in the wall. Boy, Zerglings, you thought you had trouble getting in when there was an Adept or a Stalker? Somebody's gonna slap an Archon in that wall now. I like it. High Templar. Move speed increased from 2.63 to 2.82. Okay, that's good. They still have their attack, so it's a little tough to just move them into their own demise, but when you're up against things like Vipers or Ghosts, Templar now might be able to get to the front to feedback or retreat out of a potential EMP a little bit easier. I like it. Disruptor. Purifier Orb. Radius reduced from 1.5 to 1.35. That's big. Yes, it is a size reduction, of course, but damn. Guys, Disruptor attack now a little bit smaller. If I had to guess, you can probably only fit maybe 2/3 of what you could before. Maybe a little bit more, probably 75%. From, God, before it was huge. You could hit like 12, 13 Hydras in a perfect hit. Maybe that's closer to like 8 or 9 now. Honestly, I'm not too sure about that. I don't like that initially. I haven't looked at the rest of the changes, but my problem is the Disruptor is a bit of a crutch for PvT and PV Roach Hydra, but my complaint actually is it already had counterplay. You already had ranged Liberators as a solid Disruptor counter. You already had Vipers as a solid Disruptor counter. Making it, now that the Disruptor is just straight up worse and has the counterplay option still on the board, I don't know. I'm a bit worried for PROTOSS now. Carrier. Interceptor shields reduced from 40 to 30, so interceptors a little bit easier to kill if for some reason you're fighting interceptors. Interceptor attack target priority reduced from 20 to 19. What that means is that if your units are selecting their targets automatically, they will now choose the carrier over the interceptors, because the interceptors have a lower priority, I think. Which is good, so you are more likely to have your stuff automatically acquire the carrier as the target. Interceptor flying radius around target increased. So the swarm of bees is getting a little bit more spread out. Maybe they were colliding into each other. No. So, it feels like a carrier nerf. It is a carrier nerf, just straight up. Interceptors are easier to kill. Units are more likely to target the carrier itself. But the interceptors are less susceptible to splash damage because they're more spread out. So things like parasitic bomb, you could parasitic bomb and dive your corruptors in and get the interceptors in the bomb. Little less effective. Interceptors versus widow mines, I guess. However that happened. Little less effective. I agree. Pretty much any change to the carrier is welcome because I think everybody on the ladder, low, mid, high, GM, whatever you want to call it, I think we all can agree the carrier is just a little stupid. The problem is it takes so much more effort to deal with than to use, and that's never fun. That's not a fun unit. Sentry. Build time reduced from 26.4 to 22.9. Buff. Get your sentries out quicker. They start building energy quicker. Better for force fields. Better for shields. Better for scouting. All around, good to see. Forge. Really? Upgrades research time reduced at all 3 levels. Interesting. Okay, so the ground upgrades and shield upgrades technically too are just quicker. They're just better. This does not affect the seriously heavy hitters like Storm. Does not get an upgrade. Disruptors do not get an upgrade. And it also does not affect air units because those upgrades come from the Cyber Core. So just a straight up buff to ground toss. Weird. Between that and the single gap Archons, us ground toss lovers rejoice. RIP Disruptor though, dang. Okay, TERRAN. Wake up, Terrans. It's time to get mad. Ghost. Enhanced shockwaves removed. Go cry me a river, get out. Base EMP radius increased from 1.5 to 1.75. So what does that mean? Originally, the base was 1.5 radius. That's the amount of area that the EMP hits. Enhanced shockwaves would upgrade that from 1.5 to 2. No longer 2. So now, instead of 1.5, it's coming out of the box at 1.75. It's better out of the box, but there's no upgrade for it. Okay. You can now hit a little less Archons with your EMP. Fine. Steady targeting is cancelled if the target moves more than 13.5 range away. Cast range is still 10. That's really nice, actually, for counterplay, of course. So before, you would be nervous, you'd be afraid to retreat when fighting ghosts because they could just start the snipe. The only way to stop the snipe was to hit them. So if you were retreating, you were screwed. They would get the snipes off. But now, there's actually an option for counterplay. If you can book it, if you can get on that highway and get at 13.5 range away, you're fine. That would be really good for anything on creep, actually. Lurkers, Lings, Banes, maybe even Ultras now that they had their diet. Banshee. Hyperflight rotors upgrade time reduced, 121 to 100, and rotors cost reduced. Okay, Banshee openers rejoice. Gonna see that speed upgrade a little bit quicker, a little bit cheaper. Welcome back, Banshee opener. Cyclone. Magfield accelerator damage bonus changed from plus 20 versus armored to plus 10 versus all. Alright. Lock-on ability. Before the upgrade, it dealt 400 damage to every target. well, rephrase, to one target. You can only hit one target, but it did 400 damage. With the upgrade, it would do 400 to any unit, or 800 to armored. Doubled versus armored. No longer does it have that plus to armored. Instead, it's going to be 600 to everything. So that is a change, we'll call it. Generally, you would make them versus armored targets, so that could be a nerf, actually. It's a little tougher, maybe for the Cyclone to stop things like a Void Ray all in, or roaches. You could see that versus a Roach Rush. But it's going to be better versus other things. Okay, I'm sure we can trust in Gumiho to let us know how good that one's doing. Sensor Tower. Radar range reduced from 30 to 27. Holy crap, guys, how are we gonna move on from this change? I can no longer overlap my sensor towers so artfully on the minimap. God, what's the point of even playing TERRAN now? Oh, I suppose I should actually talk about that. So sensor towers, of course, not for vision, not for detection, just to let you know something's there. It's like the motion detector. It's now a slightly less large. Okay. Raven gets its 45th change over its life. Rework. Oh boy. Gas cost reduced, 200 to 150. Build time reduced from 43 to 30. Starting energy increased from 50 to 75. Interference matrix duration reduced from 11 to 8. Anti-armor missile reduction reduced from 3 to 2. Corvid reactor removed, of course. Auto turret increased from 50 to 75. So, its abilities are generally worse. Its ability usage is just generally worse. The interference matrix locks things down for less time. Anti-armor missile only reduces armor by 2 instead of by 3. And you can no longer spam 4 turrets. Instead, you can only get 3. 2. 2? 2. Oh, man. Gas cost and build time reduced, though, so you can get them out quicker, get them out cheaper. It's almost like it's changing its role more towards an oracle, it feels. So versus PROTOSS and ZERG, I'm gonna say that's probably fine. It's probably a good thing. You can get it out a bit quicker if you need the detection, or for some reason you want to harass with it. Weirdos. TVT though, God, that's gonna be a mess. I don't know about that. The nice thing I'll say about that for TVT is if you were a fan of just having sacrificial ravens for interference matrices, that's a little bit better because their starting energy is now 75. They can come right out of that gate, do a matrix, do an auto turret, do an anti-armor missile. They get one ability right out of the gate. Okay. We'll see. I'm sure TVT is going to be tons of fun. Miscellaneous bug fixes. All units follow acquire range reduced from 5 to 2. Units will switch to attacking from moving when within this range of the follow target. So if something is chasing, it now will switch to attacking at range 2 instead of range 5, which is good. Maybe? I don't know. Dark Templar. Attack blink delay reduced from 0.75 to 0.71. So long, planetaries. Before, when a DT would blink, its attack was delayed for 0.75 to give the illusion of having counterplay. It wasn't realistic counterplay. You had to already be watching, already be aware, but... okay. Factory. Increase maximum spawn radius by 1. Guys, mech lovers, rejoice. The spawn radius is actually the space around the factory that can have units. Before, you could block it off. By accident, sometimes too, and whatever you were making would just get stuck in the factory. I've seen it. I've seen Thors, I've seen siege tanks. They just sit at the factory completed. They never actually come out. Now they can, we think. Widow Mine. Reduced random unburrow/burrow delay from 0.36 to 0.18. Average time remains the same. That's referring to the just random delay between burrowing, between attacks, between activities. We see it with other units too. It's to give it a more realistic feel, a more cinematic thing. This now means that the random delay is a shorter range. So Widow Mines may unburrow quicker. Average time remains the same. It's unlikely to be impactful. No longer targets ZERG eggs without a manual order. That's kind of nice for the TERRAN, of course. If it went onto the eggs before, you had to have like 3 or 4 Widow Mines to actually kill the eggs. But now it will wait to target units. Okay, I like it. Cyclone. Fixed an issue where lock-on could enter the cooldown while the Cyclone is loaded into a medevac. Like, the Cyclone was in the medevac and it went on cooldown, or you put it into the medevac and it went on cooldown. I don't know. But it's not going to happen anymore, so huzzah, Cyclone lovers. Lock-on no longer targets eggs without a manual order. Also good, but I'm pretty sure the lock-on would kill an egg, so it was probably fine. We'll see. Have to see about that one, maybe. Shield battery. Fixed an issue where repeatedly issuing a stop command could increase the shield regen rate. Who does that? Who did that one? Freaking PROTOSS. Who found that one out? Come on, be honest. Adept fixed an issue where adepts could not be ordered to cancel the shade ability when selected with adepts who are not finished warping in. Oh, okay. So, if you warped in a bunch of adepts while other adepts were shading, grouped them all up, the shade could not be canceled, which means the adepts that were shading were screwed, and the ones that were about to warp in are lonely. Good change. You can now cancel the shade. Adepts can now be ordered to load into a warp prism while shading, automatically canceling the shade. They couldn't before? The adept had to not be shading to be able to be put in a prism? News to me, but hey, that's good. I think that's how it should work. The prism should be able to download the adept's data, dematerialize it whenever it wants to. Queen. Fixed an issue where initial creep tumors could be cancelled. No longer unable to receive certain orders for 0.6 seconds after spawning. Hey, that's actually kind of cool. There was a delay where right as the queen came out, you couldn't tell it what to do. So now you can. It can inject right away. Lurker. Went past it. Lurker. Attacks will no longer be blocked by certain low ground terrain features. Again, who found that out? Who could figure that one out? That's got to be a funny one to see. Sir, there's a rock in the way. I don't want to attack that. Orbital command. Fixed an issue where Mule could be cast targeting refineries close to command centers. But it wouldn't get the gas, I assume. It would just kind of sit there idling. Okay, cool. Way to not target refineries anymore. Hydralisk fixed an issue where Hydras attacked faster at melee range, and if you're like, they had a melee attack? Yeah, they did. If you put a Hydra in melee, it would switch to using its claws, and it was supposed to be the same damage and the same attack speed. Apparently it was not, but now it is. Fixed an issue where Morph to Lurker would be cancelled with a smart command issued immediately after the morph command. So if you told it to go into its egg, but had told it to do something else, like a move maybe, it would cancel the morph. Curious. Stasis Ward. Attack target priority increased from 10 to 20. Goodbye, Stasis Wards. Units affected by stasis can be issued non-build commands instead of only move commands to be acted upon the stasis expiring. Thank God. That's actually really nice, because if your workers got stasis, you had to wait until they came out to tell them to go back to working. I assume that means now you can right-click the minerals, and they will go right back to mining when it's done. Sorry, PROTOSS, but it's a good change. Raven fixed an issue where units affected by interference matrix could not be issued stop commands, and an issue where units affected would walk forward below their attack range when given attack move commands. You'd see it. The matrix would go out and the unit would just walk to its own demise. Now, if I'm reading that right, it will stop at its attack range, which is cool. Okay, units are no longer just going to automatically saunter to their death. Maybe Colossi will actually live a little bit longer. Nidus Worm fixed a visual bug introduced. Okay, whatever. Muta. People build mutas. Fixed an issue where the muta's attack launch sound would play each time the attack bounced. Oh god, I bet that was fun to listen to. Zergling fixed an issue where Zerglings could not receive queued morph to Baneling commands. Okay. You can now queue morph to Baneling. Kinda nice. Zergling / Swarm Host fixed an issue where Lings and hosts could not be given commands while unburrowing. I don't know, unburrowing sounds like a lot of effort. Maybe they shouldn't be given commands. They dug a deep hole, you know, they gotta get out of there. So, alright, apparently now you can tell them where you want them to go after they unburrow, before they unburrow. You get it. Roach fixed an issue where Morph to Ravager Morph to Ravager would be cancelled with a smart command issued immediately. Oh, the same thing as the Lurker. Okay. So apparently that might not happen now. Cool. Liberators fixed an issue where the Liberators could not be given certain orders immediately after being ordered to unsiege, like the unburrow thing. Now when you tell it to do something, it will actually listen to you. Good change. Cool. Worker units no longer need to wait for full deceleration before beginning to attack. Hey, that's kind of cool. So now, if your SCVs actually catch up to the Reaper, they can hit him a bit easier instead of having to wait to do their attack. Counterplay with workers. Fun. Ghost. Steady targeting / snipe can now be manually cancelled. There you have it. Will it still take the energy? I don't know. I thought it didn't take the energy unless the snipe actually went off, but yeah, I could be wrong on that one. Either way, you can manually cancel it now. The default key is probably escape, if I had to guess. Is that it? That is it. Ooh. I don't know. Some of these more impactful ones, like the Raven, gonna be seeing a bit more use perhaps. Between that and the Banshee, actually, we might be seeing more Tech Lab starport openers. PROTOSS, of course. Or Disruptor. That's a big change. I don't know about that one. As frustrating as fighting disruptors are, I don't know. My problem is they already had counterplay. It wasn't a situation like the carriers where you get too much of them and it's not easy to counter. Disruptors already had counters. Nerfing their attack too? I don't know. But at least we can put Archons in walls. And ZERG. This is a win for the Lisks today. Ultralisk and Hydralisk doing great, honestly. Viper, Creep Tumor, rest in peace. Creep Tumor, my word. Because, that cooldown increase, we're going to be seeing the creep spread ever so slightly less. That's going to be it, guys. That is what is potentially coming. Don't know when it's coming. Probably within the next week, if I had to guess. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Terrans, how bad did you get nerfed? Are you even going to play StarCraft anymore, or have you already rage quit? PROTOSS, tell me your feelings. I know that's probably what's most easily palpable for you, and they're probably not too good with those some of those changes. Shield batteries, rest in peace. Disruptors, I don't know. Tell me your feelings. Terrans, tell me your thoughts. And Zergs, I mean, they're looking pretty nice overall. Some things, not so much, but overall, I'm okay with it. Maybe we'll actually see Ultras more. Let me know your thoughts, too, once your creep actually gets to the comment section, because now it's going to be a little bit slower. Thank you so much for watching. Hope it was helpful, entertaining, whatever you want to call it, and I hope that you have a great day.